And welcome back to Behind the Pulpit. We are so glad you're here today in the new and improved studios. And I gotta say that opening. What about that opening? Let's give a round of applause for that opening, Timmy. I feel almost kind of like a Three's Company vibe there. So I'm feeling like I'm just tagging here. Hey, welcome Behind the Pulpit. My name is Bob Urbig. I'm one of the pastors here at Millington Baptist Church, and today I have a really treat for you. I am joined by a very special guest, my beautiful wife, Amanda. Could you say a little bit about yourself over there?
Hello. I'm Bob's wife, Amanda.
You are not just my wife. Say, what's your last name? Yeah.
Like they don't know. Amanda Urbig, and I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, well, what do you think about the studio? First time in the, this is going to be, and we're going to have a logo up here pretty soon, the Unhindered Studios. What does it feel like to be here?
It feels like I'm a movie star, so I really like it. I like the vibe. I like the lighting. It's exciting.
Yeah, and notice back there. What do you think about producer Tim over there brought in the white tree of Gondor. You can't see it, but it's in the back wall.
I was really
over there.
Wondering what that was because I was not aware that was it. I thought it was just a funky tree.
We love Tolkien here at Millington Baptist Church.
Okay.
We do.
Lots of Tolkien quotes. You're just going to make fun of me for being a nerd.
Yep.
Over that. Do you know there actually is a YouTube channel called Nerd of the Rings where he does videos about Tolkien and the books and everything like that, and they get like millions of views.
And you know that because
I've watched them and
because you're a nerd.
Okay, all right. Well, hey, so Amanda's here because we actually preached together yesterday, and we'll get to that in just a second. But yesterday was Mother's Day. How was your Mother's Day?
It was wonderful.
Can you make sure you tell them what I did for you yesterday?
Sure, yes. So I asked for a nap for Mother's Day because I needed a nap. I had a big weekend.
Mm-hmm. You did? What happened?
We drove down to Maryland to see my sister graduate with honors and highest honors and 2 honor societies from the University of Maryland Global Campus. And it was a drive with my mom and my 6-year-old. And I did not realize.
How did that go? How was that?
I didn't realize my back could hurt as much as it did.
What? In 2 words, describe the trip down there. 3 words. 2 words. 3 words.
Fun and draining.
No, and doesn't count. Fun, draining.
Fun, draining, and fabulous.
You used the word magical earlier this weekend.
Did I really?
Yeah,
okay, it was definitely magical.
All
I mean,
right.
I hadn't seen my sister in 3 years, so that was pretty magical.
Yeah, and then you got back. You got back Saturday night at 8 o'clock, and then you got up the next morning, and we did a sermon together.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't like I went to bed at 8 o'clock. I'm my son's nurse. We
ever go to bed at 8 o'clock?
No, but like I just wanted to make sure that I basically
sometimes.
have not stopped running since Friday.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, we are glad that you're here today. We're excited to talk about some things in just a moment. Before we get there, we always do our second section on the church body life, what's coming up, what's going on in the midst of Millington, and I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Awana. We've been like on an Awana kick recently, so we'll get to that in a second. But 2 other things I want to mention before Awana. First, if you are interested in supporting our teens, they're doing a fundraiser, I think next Wednesday. Johnny was telling me about it in staff meeting today, but next Wednesday they're going to be doing a fundraiser at California Pizza Kitchen, and this Sunday in the service there's going to be some baked goods you can buy to help support teens going on mission this summer. So make sure you come out for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then second thing I want to mention is we have some interns coming in this summer. So Noah Graves and Laura Prothero are going to be doing internships for us. Noah's going to be relaunching, I should say, our Wednesdays in the Word video series. I see Tim doing his fist pump back there. So we're branching out all different kind of YouTube videos. This is going to be a devotional series that comes out on Wednesdays, right, Tim? Am I missing anything? Set me straight back there.
Yeah. So Wednesdays in the Word is something that we've had recently, and
it's coming back
last summer, and we're doing some really cool, fun things. And that we have an overarching theme. We're going to be bringing it to you
on location, right?
On location, all around our community. So look out for us in your community.
That's right.
Filming on Wednesday mornings.
Be careful. They might actually come to your backyard and start filming in your backyard. You never know.
We do have one backyard. No, I'm just kidding. But it's going to be really cool. We're going to be talking about unity, which is something that has been brought up in
That's right,
sermons.
yeah.
So we're going to be unpacking
all
that
summer in Philippians too.
For I think the next 12 weeks, 12, 13 weeks. So
Boom.
It's going to be really awesome.
So we're going to be unified by the end of the
sounds great.
summer, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. Well, there we go. All right, and then last we have been mentioning about Awana. You actually got to go to the Awana meeting. You grew up going to Awana. Maybe say a couple things about like what you're excited about with that.
Oh man, Awana is just insane. It's so awesome, even as a non-believer.
In a good way, insane in a good way.
Yeah,
not
I mean,
insane
come
like.
on. I'm speaking to the generation of people that are before me. They know insane means a good thing.
Okay. What? Yeah. There's people after you here. You know.
All right.
We won't say where we're at, but there's people after us.
Everything I say is going to be good about Awana. So there's your preference. It's amazing. It's so community driven, and it's got such a solid, clear purpose. Every kid feels included. There's a space for everyone, and the memories and the core memories you make there never go away. So if you want to come in as an outsider just for a place to be belonged at, or be belonging and come in and be solid with something, that's great. If you want to like have games and do Olympics and like be a part of something cool and bigger than yourself and learn about God in the process and memorize some core memory verses about Christianity, it's amazing too. It's just a good thing. And
it's awesome. It's a good.
exciting.
Let's just leave it. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
All right. Now details. Rachel's told me October 4th, Wednesday night, October 4th. That's when it's kicking off. So make sure you save the date, and registration info will be coming out soon. And that's what's coming up in the life of Millington Baptist Church.
Yes.
All right. Now on to the news. What's been going on in our world? We were chatting before, and we have a couple things that we want to talk about. The first thing is the debt. You may have been hearing that.
Dun, dun,
our country is in debt, and my goodness, I got a lot to say about debt. We are debt free. We did the Dave Ramsey thing for a while.
High five for that.
High five. That's right.
Boom.
We worked pretty hard, and wanted to get out of there, and so we didn't go down there and do the scream. Maybe we can just do that. We'll do a debt free scream right now.
Yeah.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. We're debt free.
Yeah.
No, you have to say we're debt free.
Oh, you didn't say that. You just said
That's what the debt free scream is.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh my god! All right, we should have practiced this ahead of time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We're debt free. High five! All right,
Yes.
but our country is not, and that's concerning. So I found a couple headlines here. So U.S. debt ceiling simplified. Simplified. You're in debt, right?
Sounds
Pay
like
it
an
off.
oxymoron.
Let me tell you just something. You got debt, pay it off. There you go. Work hard, pay it off. All right. All debt ceiling options explained. The big problem with trying to cut spending in a debt ceiling bill. What a novel idea. I don't know. You got some thoughts about this?
I mean, I believe if you don't have the money, you shouldn't spend it. But then my creative side comes in and is like, well, you can always pay for it later.
Well,
but you have to have a balance
right?
and discipline. So
Yeah.
you got to limit your spending.
It is, right? What does Dave always say? The borrower is slave to the lender, and that is
Right.
that is true. So debt, well, just stay away from it. And there's
let me put it this way. If you have a tendency to not be convicted about spending money you don't have, then you definitely need to not. If you can get away with it and you know that you'll have a balance and a little bit of a window and you're disciplined enough, then I think it's okay for a certain amount of time. I'm not saying take out a bunch of loans, but if you're wanting to buy an object that's like $50 or less and you want to put it on a card and pay it off at the end of the month, that's fine.
Paying it off at the end of the month so you don't have debt, right?
Right.
Because
But a
here's
lot
the
of
thing. People don't
don't.
understand about the interest thing. So I would always get upset about the student loan stuff. You take out a loan, but then you got the interest, and if you don't pay it off for a certain amount of time, you're actually paying more for that thing than was the price tag.
Yeah, for sure.
I think younger people don't totally understand that. I didn't get that for a while. I had to mature in that as I got older.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents, back then didn't understand the long-term effects of borrowing money, and maybe their parents didn't teach them that. So we're lucky enough to.
Well, here's the thing what's crazy about the country right now. We can't pay off the interest payments on the debt we have. That is insane.
Yikes.
That is insane. That's insane.
I'm
just gonna leave
surprised,
it there.
but I'm
All
not
right.
surprised. Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it there. So anyway, debt ceiling negotiations. That's going on. Second thing we want to talk about was we're going to go a little bit over here, Tim. Sorry. Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I mentioned this last week. We actually got to go see the movie last Monday night, and we're going to give you a little no spoilers review right here, a very quick one. But Guardians of the Galaxy was one of my favorite Marvel franchises, and I think this was like the ending of the old guard right here. And they did a really good job, I thought, in terms of wrapping it up in a very satisfying way. And one of the things I love about the series is, if you don't know about this, it's very family based. So you got everybody who's on a journey and they had problems and they're running away from it, and they found this new family, this Guardians family. And so there's a lot of family themes, redemption themes, healing themes that are in the movie.
Yep.
So this one kind of focused on Rocket the raccoon, which was a lot of fun. But very broken in terms of finding healing in the midst of his brokenness. I don't know. What'd you think?
I mean, I just saw it and it solidified my love and appreciation for Chris Pratt even more.
Oh, dude, Chris Pratt. Say about him.
Being a Christian in the media world and just not caring that people don't like what he has to say about Jesus is just like, oh man, it gets my bones like burning with good juju because he needs to be a force in that arena. And
he was a viral video went out this week, right? People were getting on him about his faith or whatever. He's not doing whatever, and he was quoting John 15. Hey, they hated Jesus, they're going to hate us. So
they're going to hate me too. And I was like, absolutely, that is the right response.
Well, too many people think they have to kind of play into what's going on out there, and just that's just the reality. And
He's
I
just
think
not
we got to
afraid.
come. Yeah.
He's not afraid. So when I see him on camera on Guardians of the Galaxy, like his personality just doesn't change in between the two. But the movies themselves, like he's just got such a good roundabout acting skill level. And you can just see like how he does everything in there. And it's just like, man, you are such a good guy. You want to root for him. You want to be there for him. Guy. Yeah.
Funny
it makes
guy.
Guardians really great.
It is.
It sets it apart from other Marvel movies.
All right. So that's what's going on in the news. Now it's time to pivot over to the sermon recap and the questions you wrote in. Dun, dun, dun.
You totally copied me from earlier. That's okay.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, anyway. All right, we're on to the sermon recap. So yesterday we were up on stage together, which was kind of fun. It was Mother's Day.
That was fun,
how did you feel up there?
I mean, other than being utterly exhausted as a mom being up there, but I was also feeling the call to do what I did with you, and that was really special and really awesome.
Yeah.
I liked being with you. I liked delivering a message together and speaking to the moms from the pulpit and just being honest and open about our struggles and how God can work in that and how we can lean into the process of being sanctified.
Yeah. Well, you did that really well. I think that was just a beautiful addition to the message, you being able to speak from experience as a mom, especially mom with young kids right now, and mom with special needs kids. I mean, there's a lot of layers that goes into that.
Thank you very much.
And like we said, we're learning along the way, but
we are.
It's not easy. One of my mentors told me, this is before we got married, although a mutual friend was saying, when you get married, and this is just, I'm dropping some knowledge here. When you get married, you start to say no to things, and then he said, when you have kids, you start to say no to a lot more things.
Yes.
It's a lot of things we have to say no to because we're sacrificing for the sake of raising the children, which is what the primary ministry that God has given us is the family.
Yeah. I think Philippians,
Philippians ties in there, right?
Oh yeah. I think this was so clear. It was so poignant to Mother's Day and just being, growing up as an adult, realizing that your life's not your own. You have one set of perspectives growing up as a child, and then as an adult, you have a different one. And so when Paul's speaking to the Philippians, they're adults, most of them, and they're like, wait, what? Like, we can't complain and grumble about what we have going on? Well, no, because God's already doing a thing in you while that's happening.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's come back to that in just a second. I want to talk about just to acknowledge about Mother's Day. We talked about this at the beginning, and maybe we can riff here for a second. So Mother's Day, we said, is kind of a bit of a mixed bag of emotions, right? So, and we always have to say this because Mother's Day for a lot of people was really a day of joy, right? Hey, I had a great mom. I love my mom. Yes, we recognize they sacrificed to raise us, so it's a day of joy. But for other people, Mother's Day is a day of pain because either you didn't have a good relationship with your mom, or you are somebody who hasn't been able to be a mom. Like, you've gone through miscarriages, and we talked a little bit about we went through that. Maybe we can share about that, and then
parental loss.
Right. So this might have been the first Mother's Day where your mom passed away and she wasn't here.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. I know people that are walking through that right now. So it's a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, it could be a day of unfulfilled desires. So again, people want to be moms, but they're struggling with infertility, which is something that people don't talk about a lot. Like, not just miscarriages, but you are not able to actually have kids. And I know people that are walking through that right now, and it's really painful, especially if that's a desire that you have. Or you're not married, you're single, but you want to be a mom. So there's all those things that are kind of wrapped up in that. So I don't know, and we were kind of vulnerable about that. I mean, we got pregnant right away with our daughter, and then we walked through a hard season before.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I wanted to have kids right away. I mean, God graciously gave us like a year and a half before He made that happen. But when we started, I thought it was going to be like 3 or 4 months, and we got pregnant 2 months in.
Literally, it was like boom.
We're like, oh,
really? Wow.
hey.
Okay. All right. There it is. There she is.
Yeah. I mean, luckily in the beginning, there was some rough waters, her being early and them just not really knowing what to do. But she was completely fine. And then, we struggled with I struggled with wanting children very soon after that and wanting them close together. And God showed me what it was like to walk through suffering like He did in Philippians. In the next 3 years, I had a miscarriage pretty much every year for the next 3 years. And then in year 4, we weren't even trying. And then all of a sudden, I was pregnant with Josiah. And then at 12 weeks, we found out he was going to be drastically different than Jenna. And that was a whole other set of, things we walked through.
Yeah.
And we grew from that, and we got closer to God from that. And then, when Josiah was in the hospital for something, I was thinking that I was just really stressed out. And here comes Zoe, and I gave you the stick, and you just had a face that was shocking for about a week with me. I was just, what in the world?
Yeah, was not expected. Yeah.
Yeah, but God does that. He likes to throw in
He does.
those things just to make sure that we're still trusting in Him. And now we see exactly why Zoe's here.
Yeah.
And His purpose and His timing is always better than ours, even if we strongly disagree and almost deny it in the process or in the moment.
Well, I'll say a thing about the miscarriage piece for a second, because I think a lot of people they don't like to talk about this, and it's something that needs to be talked about because it is a painful season. And I know every time you have one, it's like I talked to a friend one time and they said some people have the perspective of like, okay, I had a miscarriage and now we'll start over. But as it keeps happening over and over again, and you're wondering why am I not getting pregnant?
I think it's easy to grow distant from God each time.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, for a couple of reasons. One, you're going through, as women, we go through physical hormonal changes so quickly. And then to lose that hormone burst so quickly, it's like you're trying to balance your emotions. And then that goes into how you react to things. So you're trying to balance that. You're trying to figure out what you really feel versus your hormones. And then if you believe in God and God is good, you're struggling with why He would even let you go through this while still trying to, trust and believe that He has your good and your best interest at heart. So it's huge. And then just the depression or the self, what am I trying to say? Critical thinking about like what's wrong with my body, why couldn't I do it, you know?
And that's something that I think that women in a very deep sense feel that men don't totally get, so like we're doing that, for the dad it's like, oh cool, we're pregnant, but then you don't go through the experience of losing the child physically.
Especially early
although you
ones.
have to be there and watching you go through that is just it's hard.
I think it's hard at any stage. And especially if you can't see it, if like you didn't get the ultrasound or if the baby wasn't able to be seen with the naked eye, you just have what's in your heart and your mind. So it's incredibly emotionally volatile and draining, and it really breaks you down.
So let me tie that in for just a second. So the image that we used in the message was the kind of the main image was this idea of liquid sand. That's how glass is made. Mm-hmm. And just to quickly summarize, so basically the way that glass is made is that sand is heated at like 1700 degrees Celsius. And I'll say 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit because Amanda really wanted me to switch at the last minute and focus on the 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's just a higher
It's
number.
hot. It's hot. And by the way, somebody after the service came up and thought I was going to quote Paris Hilton because I said somebody out there say that's hot.
I know, because she coined the phrase. But...
I know, but we didn't do that.
No.
But it is hot. It was hot. So what happens is the sand goes down to like molten, and then after it's done, it undergoes this complete transformation, and then it becomes an entirely different structure. And so the point that we were making is that that's what Paul's saying in Philippians 2:12-18, that the sanctification process, we go through heat, we go through challenges, we go through things like miscarriages and other things that he brings into our lives, suffering. Mm-hmm. That's the heat that we don't like. But in the midst of that, he says, continue, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Work it out, which is is what we said, is it requires that we depend upon God as we're obedient.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be obedient when, when everything hits the fan. You got to be obedient when everything seems like it is impossible. That is the dependent obedience that Paul's talking about in Philippians, and that is the kind of dependent obedience that, as Christians, we hope and we want to grow through and in.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the second thing we talked about was this idea of radical contentment. So let's pause there for just a second, because verse 14, you started to bring up before. He says, do everything without grumbling or arguing. Mm-hmm. Do everything without grumbling. Simple, right? Paul just lays it out there. Do everything without grumbling or arguing. But
you're like, okay.
Yeah, and again, if you've been married, if you got kids, and you're like, ugh, Paul, really everything? How about something, right? How about something without grumbling or arguing?
I think we fail at this multiple times a day, every day.
Yes, it's hard. Now again, the grumbling was more about talking about people behind their back, and that's a major problem. But but this is something that Paul has called. He's been leading up to this. He's been saying that chapter 1 verse 27, live in a manner worthy of the gospel, and then he starts to lay out what that looks like. He's been tying in this unity theme, and then verse 14 just kind of smacks you in the face and says, well, you want to know why you're not unified? It's probably because you're doing these things. So do everything. The New Testament has a way of calling us to
just
complete,
so that I wasn't clear.
the Old Testament, the New Testament versus Old Testament. New Testament is always about like change everything, right? Don't just give 10%, give everything. Give your whole, in Acts 2, give everything. And then here it's like, don't just grumble for 10% of the time. It says just don't grumble at all. Mm-hmm. Now, why don't we do that? Why is it hard to not grumble and complain and argue?
Well, because we're selfish. We don't want to be told what to do. We don't want to be controlled. And if we did not need that counterpart, then we would have no need for a savior. So God knows we're imperfect, and he knows that we need a director, a savior, somebody that will come to us and be like, slow your roll. Because as human beings, we're not perfect. So we're going to be prone to our own idiosyncrasies, stupidities, I'll call them for lack of a better word.
Isn't it a sense that I think a lot of times we want to believe that we are in control and we are our own saviors? So
for sure. 1,000%.
Which is kind of, he talks about the whole idea of verse 17 is one of my favorites. The whole idea of being poured out like a drink offering on the sacrifice and service coming from your faith. I'm glad and I rejoice with you. So the idea that God calls us to be, Romans 12, living sacrifices for his glory. And when you're doing that, when your eyes are fully focused on Christ, then verse 14 maybe makes more sense. But it's so hard, right? You say, why can't I do that?
Well, nowadays, especially, there's distractions everywhere you look, every moment. I mean, there's really no time to yourself unless you physically force yourself to create it. So there's all of these things in place, which Paul is clearly saying in this passage. And, through that, I think and I hope that God is speaking to each one of us and saying, do you see that? Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Do you see where your faults are? Do you see that you need to put into place things where, things happen? Yeah. Yes, but I'll be there. I'll be there, and you still have to do it. Why? Because my way is better than your way. Yeah. And because I'm greater than the world.
Well, and the way we kind of voiced it was to say, the third point was to savor the sweet sacrifice, not just of Christ. I mean, first and foremost, savor Christ's sacrifice for you.
Right, but savor the process of suffering.
Right, and the sacrifice that he calls you to. And a lot of people don't like that. That's very un-American.
Yeah.
Right? Don't suffer. Yeah. We always have to have the happy ending, and it's got to be easy.
Yeah,
but life is not easy.
Right. I think in this country specifically, we don't have communal anything is kind of lower on the totem pole. So we're very self-reliant, self-dependent. And God is not giving us any command to be self-reliant and self-dependent. He's saying, depend on me. Depend on me. Use me. Follow the process. Refine yourself through the suffering, because that's the whole point.
Right. Well, the Malachi 3 passage, the refiner's fire.
Yeah.
He wants
There's
to,
an entire
he says there
about.
to refine you, and then when he refines you, then you're going to bring these offerings of righteousness.
Yeah, like you're not going to know, basically, you're not going to know what's up until you go through some crap. And when you do that, you're going to find that there is goodness.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I heard John Piper do an interview one time. John Piper, a famous preacher, and somebody asked him, what would be the first question you would ask God when you get to heaven? And he said, I would ask him, why was my sanctification so slow?
I think that's a good question.
So we always think, God, I've been working at this my whole life, and yet still, Romans 7, I'm still wrestling with the things I want to do, I do not do, and the things I do, things I don't do, I want to do, right?
Well, Francis Chan, who's a pastor, I think still out of California, or
he's wandering around.
He's a wanderer,
Asia
but
somewhere.
he's a great speaker.
What
pastor.
Tim likes to call him Freyche.
Okay, Freyche. We'll do that for the younger ones. He used to make this. He probably still does on YouTube. There's a huge illustration where he shows the life of anyone, Christians, whoever, and then he shows eternity, and he puts like this marker where the life we live in the world is.
I've used that. It's
and then he puts the rest of everything. Like the longer part of the rope is eternity. And he's like, you may think this suffering is long, but in terms of eternity, it's so short. Like savor it. Savor it, because this is where you're going to grow and be who I have made you to be. Yeah.
So true. It's so true. Okay. $1 million question as we wrap up this section. Where is God calling you to pour out your life? That was the question we were asking. Where's God So maybe briefly, how do you feel like God's speaking to you and God's speaking to me?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer for myself, but...
Well, you can tell. Maybe I'll say, maybe you can answer for me and I'll answer for you. How about that?
Ooh, I don't know about that. That might take some extra thought that we might not have time for.
Okay, how about just do yourself?
Okay. So in the last year, I've been really walking through where my role is in life. I mean, I know I'm a mother, I know I'm a wife, but where my role is in life. Am I supposed to be a nurse only? Am I supposed to go through school? Am I supposed to finish and get a higher degree? Or am I just supposed to be content with where I am because everything is so unpredictable? God needs me here. And this sacrifice is me just being here. And so recently in the last year, things happened and they've kind of forced the doors closed, which I asked for, and he gave that to me. So praise God for that, that I am supposed to be here and content in what I'm doing right here at home, in the church, in this town, just be here. There's so much for me to be needed for and for God to use right here. And so that's where I've felt his contentment, and that's where I know I'm supposed to be right now. And until I hear from the Lord again, I'm not going to question that.
Yeah. I resonate with that. I think I told you I was talking with one of my family members, we know, and we were talking. I think I said this in a sermon. We just turned 40 recently. I'm into my 40s now, and I said, what did it feel like to turn 40? And he said, well, you start to realize you're not the protagonist of the world. Because I think when you're younger, when you're in your 20s and you're even in your 30s, you think, I'm going to conquer everything. I'm going to change everything. I'm going to be like the next thing. And then you get older and you're like, it's probably not going to happen.
It's not as simple as we thought it would
be. But I think in talking about Mother's Day and about kids and family, we have 3 kids, and I'm their father, and you're their mother, and we're the only ones that are going to fulfill that role.
Yep.
So the calling is pour yourself out for the things that only you can do. So how do I pour myself out for my kids and for my wife and for because I can and I struggle with, like, there's things that I want to do, I want to get ahead and achieve and things like that, but the reality is a lot of that stuff doesn't matter. I'm not going to be remembered for that. I'm going to be remembered most for, was I a good dad? Did I love my kids well? Did I love my wife well? And that's what I need to pour my heart out for.
Yeah, that's good.
So
solid.
All right, so we'll stop with the sermon there. Hey, Tim, I know you got a Theology Sprint question for the end here, but I do want to answer this question that came in from the audience. Was not really related to the sermon, but I do want to mention it. So the question that came in, let me go back and pull it up. Where'd it go? Yeah, let me pull it up. Sorry. Technical difficulties. I know. Here it is, the post. All right. So the question is, what is meant by the Lord is my portion? That's from Psalm 119:57. And I did take a second to kind of look this up before. The Hebrew word is halech. 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 There you go. oh my goodness, let me pull it out here. Okay, helech, right? Okay, so the Hebrew word means a share of the booty or possession. That's what helech means, or to divide or apportion or distribute. And so in this context, this is really talking a little bit about dividing up the land, the allotments of land of the tribes of Israel. The tribe of Levi had no territorial allotment because the Lord was their portion and their inheritance among the Israelites. So here's what one commentary says. This special relationship between the tribe of Levi, the priest, and the Lord later is transferred to the mouth of the pious. Yahweh alone is their livelihood. And so I think what they're getting at here in Psalm 119:57, without having done hours of research, but I do think he's talking, and this is good for us, that we always think that we need to get things from the world to find fulfillment, and what the psalm is talking about is no, God is your livelihood. Trust God for everything. And we often talk, speaking practically, we often talk about this. I as a man, I often struggle with, I got to be the provider, I got to do this, and Amanda will always remind me, no, God is our provider. God is our portion. God will meet our needs wherever we are.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you that really find Jesus in songs, there's a song, and you can look up the lyric, and it'll find the artist for you. But it's, I think the title is Just Give Me Jesus. And it's been something I've been reminded of every time I listen to it.
Just give me Jesus.
Oh, here we go. Yes. But that's a great one for you guys that...
Jesus, take the wheel.
You are... Oh, my goodness. Do you guys want to borrow one for a day? I'm kidding.
No.
So, yeah, that's something that could be really helpful for you guys that really just hear the Lord in song.
All right. Good. All right. So that's that. Tim, Theology Sprint, and then we're done.
All right. Thank you, Bob and Amanda, for being on the podcast today. I know, Bob, you're
I can't hear you
here,
in my ear. You just...
give me 1 second. I was having another coughing fit, so there you go.
There we go.
Our pleasure.
You've been struggling over there.
Yeah.
Hopefully things are okay.
Yeah, it's just the, pollen, all that. So,
dude, there is pollen everywhere right now.
I got to bring...
My swing set outside, there's just pollen.
Yeah,
I got to bring my Ricola next week.
I'm breathing pollen.
Ricola.
You are obnoxious sometimes. My goodness.
All right, so we have 3 options again for you here, Bob.
What happened to the last option? My goodness.
Did I say 4 before?
No, you gave me 3 last week, and I answered
Oh, these are
2.
3 new ones.
All right, 3 new ones. So he gives me a theology question I got to try to answer off the top of my head.
You're a hot mess right now.
The first one is concerning canon.
Oh, I love canon questions.
The second one is concerning soteriology. Or salvation.
Yep.
And the last one is concerning eschatology, doctrine of end times.
This is the good stuff. I bother him about this all the time.
You pick. Well, all of them will get me in trouble. I mean, not the canon. The canon one's probably the easiest one.
Let's do eschatology.
Okay, it's funny you say this because my brother and I, shout out Ben, we're having a conversation about this. Same exact
60 seconds, man.
question. And I actually asked Pastor Dave before he went on a sabbatical about this question. I thought it'd be a good one to put on the air. And look at that, you chose it. So, does everyone face the same judgment after their life is over?
Does everyone face the same judgment after their lives are over? Okay, so this one I might not be able to answer in full. There are different views about how many judgments will happen after the end time. At the end time. So some people think there's as many as 4.
Whoa.
But everybody typically agrees there is the great white throne judgment where people, whether you're bringing you to the point of are you a Christian or not a Christian. So those that are not Christians are, cast out, and those that are Christians are entering into eternal life. Some people will say, though, is there a judgment for Christians based on what they did in this life? Typically, that's called the Bivmesit. I always forget the word. And is there a degree of rewards that you get? So I think to some extent the answer is yes, that there is a certain judgment that we all will face about whether we've accepted Christ or not. But how many judgments there are, that is up for debate, and I don't think I can answer that in the 10 seconds remaining.
I think it depends on your view of eschatology,
and
right?
it does depend on your view of eschatology. Dispensationalists, covenantalists, progressive covenantalists. Well, that's different. But
okay.
Anyway, yeah, longer conversation. We are maybe going to do a series on that, so we'll see.
That's awesome.
Hopefully that was satisfactory for today off the top of my head.
I think it was good.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, hey, honey, thank you so much for being here on Behind the Pulpit, Unhindered Studios.
You're welcome.
We're going to have you back. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We'll come up with some other topics. All right.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week on Behind the Pulpit. God bless you, and have a wonderful week.
Bye-bye.